I was just getting nervous. I think that
Yeah.
was what the problem was.
Yeah.
Because my mocks were fine. I was getting good
Right.
scores on my mocks. But I think here is, something which I realized that GMAT, apart from being a, test, a normal test, it's a mind game. Oh, it was really amazing because I think it took me a couple of seconds to process that, okay, now I don't have to prepare anymore. Quant is something that I've struggled with
Mm-hmm.
since school, I think. So this is
Mm-hmm.
something I was not very proficient with because I think it's more of a mind block for me. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't like doing it. GMAT really doesn't test you on your knowledge of the concept. It is more on the application, and that
Mm-hmm.
is where I was really struggling. I would not be able to finish my tests, and I think that is one of the major factors which kind of pulled my score down. A lot of the times I would not be able to understand what the question is asking of
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
how to even approach the questions.
Hi, Akash. Welcome to our video debrief session.
Hi, Rashmi.
Really happy to have you here. A big congratulations on your recent GMAT score, where
Thank
you
you, thank you.
reached
Thanks
the
a lot.
97th percentile, which is
Yes,
brilliant.
yes,
Uh, I know it has been a long journey, and we are here to talk about that with the multiple ups and downs that you had during this journey, and just understand what made you persevere, work hard towards this brilliant top score on the GMAT.
sure,
Now, just for our viewers, Aakash here is alum of DU. He has done his economics from DU, and then he works as a consultant with a big consulting firm, and he specializes in M&A. So, yes, Akash. Now let's talk about your preparation. So,
sure.
how was it looking at the score pop up on the screen?
Oh, it was really amazing because I think it took me a couple of seconds to process that, okay, now I don't have to prepare anymore. So I think that was a big relief. And it was really amazing because I think that day was also a bit crazy. There
Mm-hmm,
was multiple factors because of which I reached the center late. There was some
mm-hmm.
traffic blockade, etc. And I was really concerned that it would affect my score, but thankfully the exam went well. And when the score popped up, it was just elation. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because as I was telling, it was a hard-earned score. Um, so
Absolutely.
let's start at the beginning. So Akash, you had when you came on board, your verbal was more or less at a solid ground, but it was quant wherein you required a lot of improvement. You are at around a 44, 45, around a I would say, a 50th percentile kind of a place, right? From there, you actually improve to an 89th, 90th percentile in quant, which is brilliant. So, uh, coming to quant, before I think I move to quant as such, and we talk about your journey, I just wanted to show this one small graph from your journey with us that I want to share with everybody here. So, as I said, Akash was starting out at not so great ability in quant. He was at a 50th percentile. There were timing issues, right? And through his preparation, what we can see through this graph, Akash, is that the amazing improvement in accuracy across the board, but also a great decrease in the number of in the amount of time that you would take to solve the questions. So that is number properties, word problems up to an 84 down to a, and this is brilliant time. 148 for word problem is exceptional. And what we can see is, as I said, a amazing improvement in accuracy and also a brilliant decrease in the amount of time that you uh, took to solve the questions, right? As you can see, most of the time taken had fallen below 2 minutes, which is brilliant. So
Absolutely.
now tell us, Akash, what were the primary challenges when it came to quants? We'll talk about your challenges and then move to how you overcame them.
Sure. So, Rashmi, you know me very well. So, quant is something that I've struggled with
Mm-hmm.
since school, I think. So, this is
Mm-hmm.
something I was not very proficient with because I think it's more of a mind block for me. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't like doing it. So, I think that is one of the major factors. And GMAT really doesn't test you on your knowledge of the concept. It is more on the application, and that
Mm-hmm.
is where I was really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to take my earlier mocks, I realized that the exam is difficult because no matter the concepts are what it is up till class 10th, I think, but
Mm-hmm.
the application, the way the questions are framed, they are quite difficult. So that is where I was really struggling, and I think, of course, I mean, now the timing has come down, but initially the timing also was a big
Yes.
issue. I would not be able to finish my tests, and I think that is one of the major factors which kind of pulled my score down. A lot of the times, I would not be able to understand what the question is asking of
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
how to even approach the question. So I
Mm-hmm.
think those were some of the really difficult things that I used to face in quant. And of course, I've been working for about 3 years now, so I was also
Mm-hmm.
out of touch. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that also, really plays a role in how soon you can grab certain questions and start solving. So I think there was a myriad of, kind of problems which I was facing in quant. But yeah, again, your help and this platform's help, I think it really helped me, improve, and we'll get to that. But yeah, I think those were, I think, the major challenges which I was facing during quant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, to summarize, I think it started with a lack of confidence in your quant ability, a gap
Definitely.
between
Yes.
preparation and this, and of course, the ability to approach the question in such a way that
Yes.
you were able to solve it within that time.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, Akash, you used the course, you also solved Scholaranium. So, you were telling me a bit earlier that the pivotal point was when you started applying the process skills. That is what finally made the difference. And process skills are nothing but the way you apply what you know to
Yes.
solve the question. So, can you tell us how did this particular approach really make the difference that you're looking for in quant?
Absolutely. And before that, Rashmi, one thing I would really like to point
Mm-hmm.
out is that even identifying that was the problem. I think your help, it was amazing, because I think it was in the middle of my preparation where I realized that I knew everything, but I couldn't score.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great thing which you helped to identify that this is where I was going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think coming to the process skills, which is, I think, essentially how, as you mentioned, how to apply these particular concepts that I've learned. Now, a couple of things which really helped, right? So one was, I started algebraically getting to a point even
Mm-hmm.
before starting to solve the question or
Mm-hmm.
looking at the answer choices. So I look
Mm-hmm.
at the question stem and I try to get at a point where I know, okay, this is what the question is asking me. I think that
Mm-hmm.
really helped. It really helped me to just understand. It helped me during word problems because
Mm-hmm.
going through that entire that those many lines and trying to understand what they are asking is very important.
Yes.
Visualization helped a lot. So, for example, those probabilities, making the tree structures, etc. It
Mm-hmm.
just becomes easy. I think everybody
Mm-hmm.
has their own way of using these. These are tools, and I think for me, it really helped to kind of solidify my foundation of
Mm-hmm.
uh, also, I think really understanding the questions, really taking a second to just read through, and I
Mm-hmm.
think comprehending what the question is asking you to.
Mm-hmm.
Because, of course, I remember that word problems was a big problem area for me. I
Yep.
used to take 3 to 4 minutes to, I think,
Yes.
solve question. So, it was difficult for me, but once I started to, really apply these tools that, okay, just read through, try to understand what they are saying, then just try to probably uh, just algebraically get to some point
Mm-hmm.
where you can start and becomes easier for you to start, looking at for the answer choices. That really helped. So I think
Okay.
that was one of the turning points for me for quant, definitely,
Mm-hmm.
where I started applying these tools. And yeah, it just helped me during the exam when you get difficult questions, doesn't
Yes.
throw you off the foot. That, how do I even approach this question? That problem went away. So I think and the Scholaranium especially, it does help because it has a huge variety of questions, lots of
Mm.
questions and hard questions as well. So I think it really prepares you for those hard questions which comes, pushes you to think. So I think, yeah, definitely
Correct.
those skills do help.
Got it. So that's brilliant, right? What you're essentially talking about is step A, visualize what you're reading. Step two, translate it. You know, take the numbers and just translate it so that it just becomes easier to solve.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, if I remember right, another issue that you had is you you would not remember the constraints or
Oh,
consider all
yes.
cases, right? So,
Yes.
because whenever we spoke and tried to figure out why did you make these mistakes, we used to be like, oh, these are silly mistakes. But then when we actually deep dove, we understood that
Absolutely.
it was not that, but it was
Yes.
you not considering all the cases or
Yes. Yes.
you know remembering the constraints. So tell us, how did you go about making those behavioral changes, and what impact did that have in your entire journey?
Absolutely. So I think one thing I really started to do was to very diligently track my error log and,
Mm-hmm,
actually understand what I am doing wrong and where I'm going wrong. Was it, conceptual gap? Do I need to fix my process skills, or was it sometimes this is also something which you helped me with? And I think that really helped me to break down, I had always been doing this, that I would solve a lot of questions, but I feel it is not about solving,
mm-hmm,
huge number of questions. It is how best, you understand from the mistakes which you're making. I think that is something which really helped. And like you're talking, so silly mistakes are basically what they either calculation mistakes, or you just was it a positive integer, was it even an integer? So I think those things are which really it was bringing my score down. So I
mm-hmm,
think and I saw this improvement. So small anecdote, I think I spoke to you about this during the test. There was this one function, what is the maximum value of the function? Now I got to the maximum value of x. Generally, I would stop there. I would have marked that the answer, but I had to actually go back, put it back into the function and find the maximum value. Now, those things I would definitely miss. I think
mm-hmm,
that was a considerable improvement because of practice. Um, where applying all of this, just keeping that error log handy, going back, sitting down after every set of questions and putting them into categories. If it was really a conceptual gap, just go back and see what
mm-hmm.
concepts you've missed, which was not really the case.
Yes.
It was more on missing these one or two, and I think applying those steps very logically, reading the question, seeing where you can get from it, understanding what the constraints are, finally applying it, and just sense checking the answer. I think those
Mm-hmm.
couple of things really help to increase my accuracy, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's very important because, see, at a stage, most of your mistakes are not driven by conceptual mistakes.
Hmm.
If you're solving,
Absolutely.
say, GMAT like questions of medium hard difficulty, your concepts are there. What is needed is to do the root cause analysis of each mistake that you
Absolutely.
make.
Absolutely.
And only when you do
Definitely.
that, put it in the error log and work on, correcting these things, is when you actually see the kind of improvement that you're looking at, right?
Absolutely.
So that's brilliant. So I think, as I said, from 50th percentile, you went all the way up to 85th, 86th percentile in quant, which is really, really brilliant. Uh, you know, what makes it more brilliant is the fact that you are not a math lover, numbers scare you.
Absolutely.
so,
I'm
so
math averse, if that's the way to put it.
I know, I know. So, yeah, I remember. I think for me also the pivotal change was when I sent you those process skill videos and we did a
Absolutely.
focus
Absolutely. I
practice.
think
And
that
that's
was
when,
needed.
yes,
Yes.
that's when things just started falling in place for quant. And the graphs that we just saw now are an output of all that thing that you did. So, Akash, quant sort of came into place, up to 85th percentile is great. Now, coming to verbal, you started out at a strong ground. You were relatively better in verbal, I would say, as compared to quant. So, we didn't do much in verbal. What we essentially did was get your basics right, which we will talk about shortly, and also through the cementing quizzes, to the Scholaranium, understand what your weaker areas were and just fix them. Right. Now coming to verbal. I think we started with master comprehension, and you were telling, the skills that you picked up there not only helped you in verbal, but in quant also. So,
Absolutely. No doubt on that.
can you quickly take us through the value that you found in master comprehension?
Yes, absolutely. So, I was an e-GMAT student earlier. So I think this is before the pandemic when I had
Mm-hmm,
first started preparing. But then because of multiple factors, I stopped my preparation. And the master comprehension course is something I did then. And I thought I remembered everything. But then when I started, taking those quizzes and doing my mocks, and I realized that, okay, maybe I'm not being able to really understand what the questions are
mm-hmm,
asking me. So I actually went back and, with your guidance, I think I did that entire thing again. And it really helps, I think, to understand what the passage is asking. And this not only helped me in verbal, where, it was, critical reasoning, those passages, sometimes they get dense. And though sometimes, we get quite long passages in reading comprehension as well. So, really getting through those passages, and then especially in quant, as I said, what problems was a problem area for me. Now, what's the problem there is there's a lot of English written there, a lot
mm-hmm,
of
mm-hmm,
language which is there, which you kind of to get through and understand what the question is asking. So I think, yes, definitely understanding what the passage says, comprehending
mm-hmm,
that entire thing is what I think drove has a huge role to play. And I think even in daily life, it just helps you to read better, to understand
mm-hmm,
what is put in front of you. I think that is definitely, that was a huge help, that entire journey of perfecting the master comprehension
mm-hmm.
process.
Yeah. And I think you should know, right? Because you were telling me you got a five passage RC in your test. So I'm sure navigating such a dense passage would have been difficult unless and until you had certain set strategies of how to approach the passage. So tell us about that.
Oh, yes. So this was something which was a bit unexpected. And, though I had seen longer passages coming on the exam, but then on the exam day, I got hit with a five paragraph passage, and the
Mm-hmm,
paragraphs was also not very small. So it took me some time to, I think, get through and understand and it was a complicated passage as well.
mm-hmm,
So it was, I think, a passage based on social sciences, not one of my stronger areas. Generally, if it's a
mm-hmm,
science-based passage, I quickly read through them. But this was a social sciences-based passage. It was five paragraphs. So I think really understanding what each line meant, what the author is trying to say, where is the author coming from, all of the skills which I did pick up during master, understanding, and in that entire master comprehension phase of my learning, I think that really helped. I mean,
mm-hmm,
helped me bring down my time a lot, because I think critical reasoning, RC, I was quickly able to get through, because
mm-hmm,
sometimes these long passages do slow you down. It takes 6 minutes, more than 6 minutes, to read such a long
mm-hmm.
passage. So yes, definitely, it was a huge plus point. Yeah.
Okay, so that's brilliant. Now, Akash, I can see that you've solved over 2,000 questions on the Scholaranium. So, so what's your take on Scholaranium? Let's take it one thing at a time. We'll start with semantic quizzes because you've used them, and if you could tell us the value that these semantic quizzes have had in your preparation.
Sure. And I think before I just go there, I think I just love the structure all over.
Mm-hmm,
You start with learning the concepts, then you come to the semantic quizzes where, you try to solidify the concepts. If you
mm-hmm,
make certain mistakes, you know where to go back and learn them again. And once you're
mm-hmm,
done with the semantic concepts, you kind of go and do the scholaranium. So I think that entire construct is really good. It helps to solidify the foundations. So yeah, so semantic quizzes, I think those are mostly, I would say, to check your ability on the concepts before you even move on. So concepts, process skills, all of that, it really helps you to take a check that, okay, I've learned this. Am I being able to apply this? So I think
mm-hmm.
those really helped me. I think I took a lot of semantic quizzes as well. I
Yep.
think almost all that was available, if I'm not wrong. So
Yes.
I think that really helped me. And the Scholaranium itself, I think it is a beautiful, combination of both quant and verbal questions. There are a lot of questions. There are hard questions. So I think
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would definitely like to say that, Quant, one thing which helped me was the level of questions I had practice in.
Mm-hmm.
So the Quant questions which I would solve, so they were quite hard questions in the Scholaranium. So when I actually got hit with those harder questions on the GMAT, I did not struggle as much as I
Mm-hmm.
would early.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So that is a beautiful thing. And I think the best thing about Scholaranium and this entire semantic quizzes is the data which it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
kind of provides. So it just makes my job easier to understand what I'm doing well, which what I need to work on. Because as soon as you take the quiz, you can go back, you can see what subtopic you're making mistakes
Mm-hmm.
in. As you
Mm-hmm.
was just showing, right? I can go and track what my performance has been, what am I doing well, and what is my timing looking like,
Mm-hmm.
where do I need to
Mm-hmm.
improve, kind of pinpoint those areas. So it just complements my own error log, where I know that okay, these are some mistakes that I'm making, and okay, the data is showing that, and it just proves what it's like a hypothesis which I'm proving, and it really helps to kind of pinpoint that this is the problem,
Mm-hmm.
this is how I need to solve it, and you can track the progress because you
Mm.
keep taking those quizzes and you see that okay, if I'm hitting a certain level, yes, I probably understand it. If I'm not, then I have to work on it. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. The cementing quizzes and the Scholaranium was a really pivotal thing during my entire
Mm-hmm.
preparation.
Very true, very true. I think because, see, what happens is when you are just starting with your journey, you need a very generic approach, wherein you're building your foundation, you're learning concepts, learning applications. But after a certain stage, what happens is that generic approach won't cut it anymore.
Yes,
What you need
yes,
is a very, very strategic, very specific, very targeted approach. And the data that gets collected on Scholaranium really helps identify what those specific areas of weakness are, create those hyper specific plans which actually, help you target just those pockets of weakness. Right. And yes, we've used quite a bit of it, as I just said. And I think that's really helped us narrow down to, as in quant, the fact that process skills was an issue, NCR, inference was an issue,
yes,
RC, humanity kind of passages were issues. So
yes,
once we've identified that, it just becomes easier to fix it, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So we did all this, Akash, I know, and but the journey to the test, the score, which is a 740 translated to a 695 on the GMAT focus, the journey of the test taking wasn't easy. It didn't. It was a third attempt in which you finally got the score. So walk us through what happened in the first two attempts, and because first attempt, I think you were not ready. You already had a test date in hand, but second attempt you had prepared. So what is it that sort of you think brought the score down on these two attempts, and what finally helped you nail it on the third?
Sure. So couple of thoughts here. So I think first attempt, as you mentioned, so I had booked my date, and I think it was a month before or 25 days before. I just realized that okay, I'm not nowhere close to my score.
Yeah.
So I remember writing a frantic email to you, and you responded, and you really helped me during that time too, because we had identified immediately, like you said, that verbal was okay, I was holding fine there, but quant was my weak area. So you really helped me prepare that hyper specific plan how to improve
Mm-hmm.
quant in those 2 3 weeks, and I think that really pushed my quant. I think
Mm-hmm.
first time I got a Q48, I could not even dream of getting that without that practice, I think. So that was definitely there, but
Mm-hmm.
yes, because of that shortage of time, I think it was probably I did not focus a lot on verbal. I think there was a lack of confidence, lack of practice, so it brought the score down. Second time, I was very well prepared. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think preparation was an issue there because, after that attempt finished, I remember going back to the, basics, starting that entire quant I did again, entire verbal I did again
Mm-hmm.
from scratch. So I was quite prepared. But I think here is, something which I realized that GMAT, apart from being a, test, a normal test, it's a mind game because especially I think that adaptive nature, right? You get an
Mm-hmm.
easier question and you start, worrying that my previous question was wrong, and you get another easy one, or should I have done
Mm-hmm.
two wrong? So, that really plays. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
controlling your nerves is something. So I think I was really nervous on testing on the second attempt.
Mm-hmm.
It was just with the backdrop of the amount of preparation which has gone through, the preparation which might again come if I don't get through. So I think a lot of nerves were playing. So I think that because I don't believe that my preparation was in any
No.
way lesser. I was quite ready to give the exam. So I think that really helped. That really had a factor to play in what happened. But yeah, third attempt, I think this is what I understood that, I was just getting nervous. I think that
Yeah.
was what the problem was.
Yeah.
Because my mocks were fine. I was getting good
Right.
scores on my mock. So why not on the exam day?
Yes.
So I think that helped, and I think one of your emails I remember you had kind of written about mindfulness meditation. I had never really tried this or anything, but yeah, about I think 15 days before test day, I did not want to repeat my same mistakes. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to keep worrying for some things which I can't control. So it's okay if I
Mm-hmm.
made a mistake, make a mistake and move on. So I think that's okay. That really helped. So
Got it.
taking out I think 15 20 minutes a day, just sitting down trying to do a bit of meditation, it really helped. And the results showed because as I said, I reached the test center late. There was a lot of factors which were there. There was a road blockade, a lot of things which could have spoiled the
Mm-hmm.
exam, but it didn't, because I kind of got to the center. I took some time, got calm, got composed, and just and I remember your mails kept saying that just believe in the preparation you've done. So
Yes.
that was the thing. So I knew that I'd prepared quite well. I knew what I knew what I was
Yeah.
expecting, and yeah. So definitely. So I don't think preparation wise there was a huge difference between the
Yeah.
second and, because it was hardly what, I the month I think I took the
Mm-hmm.
next one, because
Yeah.
anyway I wanted to take the classic edition, and I think that was fine. So yeah, I think that was my entire journey. So I
Yeah.
mean, quick takeaways would be that GMAT is a mind exam as well. So, I think that is something I learned, that you have to understand how the exam works and just, not let it get in the way of your marks. So I think it's just okay. That meditation, a bit of that really helps. And if I've done a preparation, it's going to turn fine, I guess.
Yeah. I think you're perfectly right because the second, as you rightly said, the first test you weren't actually completely prepared, but the second test you were prepared. It was not a great score, but that is the beauty of a data driven preparation plan, right? Because there's so much of data backing up and saying this was an off day. It was not, where you are at. This is not where your ability is at. So that's where I think it is important to draw that confidence out of that data and tell yourself that,
Of course.
I've taken so many quizzes, I have taken so many mocks, everything points to a great score on the testing, right? That confidence, as you rightly said, the mindset change becomes really, really, the differentiating factor on the testing, as you rightly
Absolutely,
mentioned.
absolutely. And
Uh,
now that you mention it, I remember that after I took the test, we had a call, and I remember you showing me that
yeah,
this is what your performance is like, and this is, I'm not saying just because of you've taken one test or two tests or like that. Throughout the course of your preparation, this is what your scores look like, and this is just data. It's not wrong. So that means that you can do it. It's just probably an external factor which is caused. So I think that really helps to kind of build in that confidence that, okay, if I'm able to do it, if there's proof that I'm able to do it, then probably
yeah.
going to turn out okay. So I think, yeah, definitely, that really helped.
That's brilliant. I'm so glad that you finally had the dream score in your hands, and it's really nice always to do these interviews where you're speaking to people who really put in their heart, soul, effort, sweat, everything into the preparation, and finally things fall into place. So uh,
Absolutely.
so, Akash, given all this, it has been a long journey. You started 2 years back, didn't do it too seriously then. It was mostly in the
Yeah.
last 2, 3 months that all this work
Yes. Yes.
happened. But still,
Definitely.
are there some key takeaways that you have uh, to share with the other GMAT aspirants out there who might take a leaf out of your preparation and make their preparation all the more richer?
Absolutely. I think, all the more it it became difficult because I'm a working professional, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and especially the kind of work I'm in, it's long hours. So it's difficult to take out that time and practice and really take the exam. I think that was the major hurdle. Because if it was school days or college days where you're sitting and studying, then I think it's fine. I think it would have not taken that much of a time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because you're working, you have other commitments too. I think balancing is very important. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is where I think, some part of what you had suggested also helps. So I made sure, and I think it's very important that you do something every day. Probably
Mm-hmm.
just carve out those 1 hour, 2 hour, how much you can, and just keep at it, and probably
Mm-hmm.
make a schedule and just stick to it. Even
Mm-hmm.
if that is 1 or 2 hours a day, maybe more on the weekends, I think that is something which really helped, because it is not easy, because work commitments come and everything. But so for me personally, what works was the morning. Some people like to
Mm-hmm.
study at the night. I'm more of a studying in the morning person. So I used to
Mm-hmm.
get up in the morning, get those. It was just key that I wanted to get this thing out of my way. So,
Mm-hmm.
I would sit in the morning, fresh mind, 2, 3 hours, get it out of the way, and then start your entire
Mm-hmm.
day, and just keep repeating that. I think that is something which is, which really helped. The consistency does help, and just making a schedule and sticking to
Yeah.
it. It doesn't need to be like 5, 6 hours a day. Small things do help. Another thing I think which really helps is just the entire thing which we've talked about, right? Just trusting the process, that
Mm-hmm.
if you've learned, if you've applied it properly, if you've practiced properly, it will translate into kind of a good score. So I think that is something definitely that it was my learning, and I think for this entire journey, I think those two things would be the key takeaways.
Awesome. So, what I'm hearing is be consistent with your preparation and trust in the effort that you're putting in and the ability that you're building, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So I think they're brilliant takeaways, and it is that is the one of the key differentiating factors, right? How consistent you are with your preparation, how much you trust the process and repeatedly use it so that things become intuitive to you. So
Absolutely.
that's very well put. And so thank you, Akash, for doing this today. And a big, big, big congratulations again. And yes, wishing you all the very best for the
Thank you,
upcoming
thank you. And personally,
admission
Rashmi,
journey.
thank you because for the last couple of months you've been a constant backbone, amazing support. So it would have been very difficult without this support. So yeah, thank you so much, and it feels great.
The pleasure has been ours. Okay.
Sure.
So thank you
Thank
and bye
you. Thank
bye.
you.
See you.
Bye.